All right, so we've got our egg yolk here. You can see that little white dot right there. That's the germinal disc. That's the point of fertilization. And you see this little white right there that I'm pushing around. That is the chalaza, which there's one on either side. You can see this one right there as well. And that is the membrane that connects the yolk to the eggshell and holds it in place. And then you have the albumin, which is the egg white, everything else splashing around in there, which is primarily water. But the albumin is also very high in protein. And that's important for the egg because it's going to help protect it from the environmental elements. So these are all duck eggs that I have here. These come from my runner ducks that I have raised in my backyard. And of course, my runner ducks is raising. I started raising ducks because I enjoy eggs, and I prefer duck eggs because they are a high quality source of protein. They're also very delicious. I think way tastier than chicken eggs, but that's personal preference. However, I make eggs very differently than most anything you'll get in the grocery store in the United States. I do it more, I guess, European style. So if you've ever been over to Europe, then you probably noticed that their eggs are not refrigerated. They just throw them next to a can of beans on a regular shelf. Whereas here in the United States, we spend lots of energy refrigerating all of our eggs. That is because we raise our eggs in very dense quarters, in high quantity. You've probably seen some of the massive chicken barns that we have, where it's chickens on top of chickens on top of chickens, almost as far as the eye can see. Not free range. In Europe, they do a much more sustainable free range method. As such, they prevent diseases in Europe, whereas in the United States, we have issues with things like salmonella. And so Europe takes the preventative measure of having free range ducks, chickens. Here in the United States, what we do is we cleanse our eggs. So after the chickens produce them, we recognize, hey, look, we don't vaccinate our chickens in the United States. They do over in Europe. We've never created a standard protocol for that. So instead, we sanitize our eggs. After we sanitize our eggs, we take a lot of the natural protective membrane that's on the outside of that eggshell, which can make it vulnerable to bacteria. So now we also have to refrigerate our eggs. So it's a method of reducing the chances of the public getting salmonella. So the eggshell has a membrane on the inside of it, and that membrane is the second layer of protection. So the eggshell has about 10,000 pores inside of it on average, and then we have that membrane on the inside. As an egg gets older, the pH is going to rise from release of carbon dioxide, and that causes the eggshell membrane to slowly release, and you get more of an air pocket inside of there. This is why if you're making hard-boiled eggs, you don't want to use fresh eggs. Buy a dozen eggs or harvest your eggs from your own fowl, leave them sit in the refrigerator for a week or two, and they're going to peel way better than if you hard-boil fresh eggs. Okay, so we've got a couple of things I want to show you here. So I have here 3 eggs, and I'm going to set this aside for now. And we have, so one of these eggs, I have removed the eggshell, the calcium carbonate layer of that eggshell. This is to protect bird eggs from insects. And as a consequence of having removed that, we now have this kind of rubbery egg that is kind of fun to bounce around. But then I have 2 other eggs here. One of them is hard-boiled, one of them is not hard-boiled. It's very easy to tell which one's hard-boiled. If you spin it, hard-boiled eggs will spin really fast, but also if you put your finger on them, they'll stop. If you stop them from spinning and then take your finger off, they will not continue to spin. This is, of course, inertia. And so if we see how that continued to spin after I stopped it and then released it? It's because, of course, I stopped the shell from spinning, but I didn't stop the yolk inside from moving. And so, if we think about inertia, motion's going to continue unless we have net external force on it. So that's one way that we can tell those apart. So how did I create this rubbery egg? I used acetic acid, so regular distilled white vinegar from right there in that jar, and put it in here, and then I put the eggshell in, and if you leave it there for an extended time period, all of that calcium carbonate, the acetic acid, will cause that carbon dioxide to be released, and it will weaken that calcium carbonate layer. So right now I'm putting toothpaste on this egg, and I just want to show you, this has fluoride in it, and so if you take a fluoride based toothpaste and put it on an egg, you can mimic why do we want fluoride in our toothpaste for our teeth, right? Our enamel contains calcium, and acids will eat away calcium carbonate. Plaque is acidic, and that is consuming our enamel. So if we are to take an egg and put it into acetic acid, we should see the carbon dioxide being released. And I'm trying to show you what I'm seeing here. Can you see the bubbles forming on the right side of the egg where I did not put the fluoride? Let's try and take a different view here. There we go. You can see the bubbles forming on the one side and not on the other where I have the fluoride. So the acid over here, the acid is eating away that calcium and breaking up that calcium carbonate, which is going to cause the eggshell to soften and essentially convert it back into more of a reptile eggshell. At which point we then have a bouncy egg. Thank you very much, and till next time.